Cinematic time, nigga living. Moon roof in the ceiling, just to hurt their feelings. Tryna run my money up like I was a sprinter. I ain't never had enough, it's only the beginning. Cinematic time, nigga living. Moon roof in the ceiling, just to hurt their feelings. Yeah, like I was a sprinter. It's only the beginning. I used to dream of...
Hey, what's going on? It's your boy BT. I came here to talk some boxing with the thousands of True School Sports subscribers. What's going on, guys? Now, those were the marvelous sounds of Mr. Quentin Miller. If you guys don't know Quentin Miller, he's the guy that wrote all the Drake stuff. But Quentin Miller, I like Quentin Miller. He's dope. But anyway, we're going to get into some boxing. You know, obviously there's a fight I'm going to this weekend. I've said it a million times if you've been watching my recent videos. But in case you missed the reminder, I'll be at the Terence Crawford, Felix Verdejo fight. By the time you guys get this video, I'll be at the airport. You know, probably getting ready to board my plane. So, you know, looking forward to it. I'm really excited about it. It'll be my first fight that I'm covering outside of South Florida. You know, first fight I ever covered was Shannon Briggs versus Mike Maroon at the Hard Rock here in Hollywood, which is not that far from where I live. Then Arizona Lara versus Jan Zevic. That was a PBC fight in Hialeah. And then now our first fight out of the state at, you know, the Mecca of boxing, Madison Square Garden. So that's a huge jump going from, you know, Hard Rock to Hialeah Park Racetrack and Casino to Madison Square Garden. But I'm happy to be there, and it's going to be a great time. Shout out to Neil for helping me get the credential. But anyway, wanted to get into what's going on in this card. You know, we have obviously on the undercard, and I want to get to Felix Verdejo first before I even get to Crawford and Lundy. Felix Verdejo will be taking on William Silva now. William Silva is a Brazilian fighter who really has a padded record. He's a guy that Top Rank picked to help Verdejo get his record up and build him up. You know, it'll be the kind of fight where Verdejo goes in there and completely ices the dude and just moves on from there. And, you know, the Top Rank and their matchmakers and Bob Arum company, they're so confident in what Verdejo can do in the ring that, you know, they already have his next fight scheduled after this one. He'll be fighting again in April in Puerto Rico. So that just goes to show you that they're fast-tracking the hell out of this kid, and he's very talented. You know, people have likened him to Felix Trinidad. That's one of his heroes. So, you know, I'm looking forward to seeing Verdejo in person. I'll be there Wednesday for the media workout, so hopefully we can do some stuff for Felix Verdejo. But I'm excited, man. I'm really excited to see him fight. You know, eventually, hopefully, and shout out to Mr. Jay Calderon. I'll be watching his video sometimes. Jay Calderon, he said that, you know, they're fast tracking him, and that it would be good if we saw Verdejo in there with some more live bodies, guys who are coming to win, guys who are experienced, have some sort of credibility, more credibility in the sport. Like a guy like Ray Beltran, like Jay Calderon said, would be a good name, because Ray Beltran, you know, been in good fights. This is tough, comes to win, and you know that he's gonna give his all against a good tough fighter in Verdejo. So hopefully, I'm hoping we get to see that in the future, maybe as early as his next fight in Puerto Rico. So Verdejo, I think, will win. It'll look sensational in doing so, and I'll move on to bigger and better things. So now that we got that out of the way, you know, shout out to El Diamante, Felix Verdejo. I'm going to be seeing him quite a lot this coming week. Shout out to him. Hope he has a good performance, and we'll see what happens, man. But let's get to the main event. Let's just jump right into the main event now, because the Felix Verdejo William Silva matchup really is much of anything. Hank Lundy versus Terence Crawford. No, this is a fight that when I first made a video on it, you know, and again, another shout out to my boy Mark Christopher Atkins. He's a fighter himself. He fights down in Dallas. I think he's living in Dallas, but he fights in Dallas. I know I think he does. You know, he's in the same area as Earl Spence. So shout out to my boy Mr. Atkins. He just won his most recent fight, improving to 7-2. But he brought it up when I went on Facebook and said that, you know, when I went on Facebook and said that, you know, I was covering the fight. He said, you know, didn't you discredit this fight and all this nonsense, all that? And I did. It wasn't a fight I was particularly excited about at first. I want to see Terence Crawford against the big names, the guys at 140 who I feel are already a problem. Guys like Broner, guys like Postal, guys like even a Matisse, a guy like even someone who I interview quite frequently on this channel. I've interviewed him 3 times. I just put a video up of him working out the other day, last Monday. And a guy in Amir Imam, that'd be even a good matchup for him. Amir Imam, once Amir Imam can get some more wins under him. I wouldn't even mind that. So I got mad because Hank Lundy is not a natural 140-pound fighter. He is a lightweight. He's a second consecutive lightweight that Terence Crawford is bringing up to 140 to fight. He did it with D'Eri Jean. He iced D'Eri Jean. And, a lot of people are saying that this fight is not very interesting because we've already seen this fight. We saw the D'Eri Jean fight, therefore we saw this fight. And I beg to differ because, with all due respect to Mr. Douglas D'Eri Jean, Hank Lundy is a lot more talented than D'Eri Jean, and I think Hank Lundy is really hungry for this fight. Now, do I think he's gonna win? You'll find out later in the video. But D'Eri Jean, has not really beaten any name opponents. His only name opponent was Lamont Peterson. He lost that fight. Hank Lundy, he's been in there with a lot of guys. He's been in there with Thomas Delorme, who he got robbed against, Mauricio Herrera, who he got robbed against. He's been in there with Victor Postal, who people don't know this about. I don't know why they don't realize this about Hank Lundy, but Hank Lundy was in there. He went to the Ukraine, right? He fought in probably one of the weirdest boxing venues you will ever see. If you go pull up the fight, you'll see what I'm talking about. Had a close fight, a competitive fight with Victor Postal. Lost to Victor Postal. Got knocked out by John Molina Jr. So he has been in some competitive fights, and has he gotten the short end of the stick in his career plenty of times? Yes, he has. And if he goes in there and outboxes Crawford somehow, will he get the short end of the stick in this scenario? The answer is most likely. So Hank Lundy, while I don't see him necessarily winning this fight, I think this is definitely a good measuring stick for Terence Crawford because people, myself included, with the Victor Postal fight on the table, people want to see Crawford fight Postal right now because it's a unification fight. Postal's willing to make the fight. It's an in-house fight. There's no reason it should have been made. There isn't really any reason that fight shouldn't have been made. So that's actually going to be a lot of what I'm going to be asking Crawford and Arum and these guys. More so Arum. Why didn't that fight get made? All that stuff. And since it did get made, what's the timetable? We got to get some answers here on True School Sports for this stuff. So this will be a good measuring stick because Postal, Postal ran through Matisse. Postal destroyed Selçuk Aydin. He's beaten some good opponents, but he didn't run through Hank Lundy. He did not run through Hank Lundy. In fact, I remember I'm looking. I didn't get a chance to watch the whole fight. I watched most of it. Hank Lundy did some good work. Okay, Hank Lundy did some good work. A lot of people in the comments are saying that he did lose, got robbed in that fight as well. But I didn't watch the whole fight, but I do know it was a competitive fight. And if Terence is to run through Hank Lundy, that's a good measuring stick for Postal. And I think then if he runs through Lundy like people think he might, then make the Postal fight happen. So this is actually gonna determine a lot in the 140, being that how he performs against Lundy will then determine when he fights against Postal. So let's get into the stylistic matchup. We'll get into the physical characteristics of each fighter, and we'll break those down. So first we have on one corner we have Hank Lundy, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He's coming into this fight 26-5, 13 knockouts. He comes in with a height of 5'7" and a 68-inch reach. He is a switch hitter like Terence Crawford. From Omaha, Nebraska, we have Terence Crawford. He comes into this fight 27-0 at 19 knockouts. He's 5'8". He got a 70-inch reach, and he's also a switch hitter. So, we see from a physical standpoint off the rip, we see that Terence Crawford has the slight height advantage. He has the reach advantage, 2-inch reach advantage, and he's still undefeated. So with that being said, Terence Crawford has the physical physical advantages against Hank Lundy. What I find most interesting from this fight, from a stylistic perspective, is that they're both switch hitters. We've seen Terence Crawford fight guys who are not bigger than him, but guys who are orthodoxes, guys who are southpaws. We haven't necessarily seen him fight switch hitters and a guy who can also, when Terence, because that's one of the biggest advantages Terence has. You know, if a guy is having success against him, he can switch to a southpaw or switch to orthodox, whichever way may suit him best at the time, and he can go in there and he can have success against him. That's always a huge advantage for him. But now that there's another guy in the ring that can do that, how much of that advantage is taken away, and how can he still use that attribute he has to exploit Hank Lundy and beat him? That's what I want to see from Terence Crawford, and I think that's where this fight is definitely like the most interesting part of the fight stylistically. Outside of that, Hank Lundy is saying that he wants to make it a war. He knows in the past, being robbed, that he can't box a shutout. He can't outbox Crawford and hope for a decision from the judges, or have a close fight with Crawford and hope for a decision from the judges. He's gonna have to go in there and he's gonna have to put a hurting on Crawford. Now, before we get into Hank Lundy and what those chances are, let's first take a look at Crawford. He fought Gamboa when he was at lightweight, and Gamboa, being a featherweight, was brought up to lightweight and was outboxing with him for the first 2 rounds. And he hurt Crawford a few times in the later part of the fight. Crawford was stunned, and you know that raised a lot of questions. People, that moment right there was the reason I've heard people in the boxing community say things like, you know, Terence Crawford would lose to the likes of a guy like Adrian Broner. Like that'd make a very competitive fight, because if Crawford is getting hurt by Gamboa, who's not a natural lightweight, who wasn't at the weight class Terence Crawford fought at the time, if Gamboa is not a natural lightweight, then a guy who is a 140 pounder, a beast at 140, in Adrian Broner, would for sure put a hurting on. So Hank Lundy, being I wouldn't say he's as big a puncher as Gamboa, but it's the same thing. Gamboa was a featherweight. He came up weight class that he's not familiar with, and he was able to hurt Crawford. Lundy's coming up on a weight class, and the question is, can he hurt Crawford? He only has 13 knockouts in his career. Not a high knockout percentage. It is under 50%. So if he does hurt Crawford, I think it's for. I mean, this is pretty obvious stuff. But if he does hurt Crawford, for Lundy, it's really about making sure that when that time comes, he can finish the job. Because if he doesn't finish the job, then he's not going to be able to win this fight. So it is what it is. We'll see. We'll see if another Gamboa moment happens to Crawford, and if it does, can Lundy take advantage of it? That's the most interesting thing I see for Terence Crawford. Now, I can't lie. While I am finding positives and I'm being optimistic about this fight, Hank Lundy is a solid fighter, better than people give him credit for. He's still not a premier fighter at 140. And we want to see Terence Crawford in there with the premier fighters at 140. And while this fight's is happening, and it's at Madison Square Garden, where they're going to market Terence Crawford, and he's going to be shown on a more grand scale to the New York public. He's going to be able to build his name up more, which is good for him, because he didn't get the Pacquiao fight. Despite all that, there are other fights I wanted to see. We'll start off with a few of the fights at 140 that I did want to see, and I hope I get to see in the future. I mentioned Victor Postol. Obviously, I would love to see that fight with Terence and Victor Postol, because number one, that's a unification fight. Number two, Victor Postol is a taller fighter. And I talked about this when we talked about when we were talking about Klitschko in the heavyweight division. The advantage for Klitschko being a heavyweight most of the time was that he's bigger than most heavyweights, and he could exploit that size and beat a lot of guys. But when he had to fight a bigger guy in Tyson Fury, that didn't work out as well for him. So I want to see if the same thing will be true with Terence Crawford at this weight class. With Postol. Postol, let's keep in mind Postol. His fight against Matisse. Nobody's ever stopped Matisse. Matisse's a tough customer. Matisse's a guy who is not the best fighter at 140, but is definitely a name, a guy that is a top 5, top 6 fighter at 140. You can't talk much about 140 without mentioning Lucas Matisse. So with that being said, man, Lucas Matisse getting destroyed by Postol definitely showed, not only to me, but the rest of the boxing world and the fans, that Postal is the real deal, and Postal fighting Crawford is a tremendous fight, and hopefully that fight gets to happen in the future. Another fight that I'm actually intrigued to see because this guy, he'll be fighting on April 1st against Ashley Theophane, but Adrian Broner, he has a lot of excitement as far as his personality goes. Terence Crawford's more of a quiet guy, but we have seen Terence Crawford at times talk trash. We saw it in the DRA Jean fight. Did you get what you was looking for when he was talking to DRA Jean in his post-fight interview? We've seen Terence Crawford engage in trash talk that way. We saw him engage in a little bit of trash talk during the Hank Lundy press conference. So I think Adrian Broner, from a promotional standpoint, will be able to bring out the best in Terence Crawford. We'd see a little bit more of that dog in Terence Crawford as far as the personality and the little trash talk come out more. I think that would be actually great for Terence Crawford's marketability. So I wouldn't mind it from that standpoint. And then you get into the fight as a whole. Adrian Broner's never lost to 140. He's never lost to 140. His only two losses are at 147. He lost to Porter, and he lost to Mr. Marcos Maidana. But he's never lost to 140, and he's a different fighter at 140. And he beat Khabib Verdejo, albeit on a long layup, but Khabib still a solid fighter. And now he's fighting Ashley Theophane, another fight he should be favored to win. So if he gets past Ashley Theophane, I wouldn't mind seeing a Crawford Broner fight, just for the simple fact that Broner has power, is really good at that weight, and like I said, a lot of people think that if Broner's ability to, Broner's power just will give Crawford too much problems. I personally don't think that. I think Crawford boxes that dude's ears off, takes advantage of his inactivity, and eventually stops him. That's what I think will happen if they fought each other. But that's a good fight for Crawford. I mentioned Lucas Matisse earlier. If no other fights are, if you can't get Postal, you can't get Broner. If no other fights are on the table, then I'd say Matisse is a guy I should look at. Matisse been in there with a lot of fighters at 140. He lost to Garcia, lost to Danny Garcia, lost to Victor Postal, but still a top guy at 140. A good measuring stick for Crawford. A guy who also can punch. A guy who has minimal boxing skills, but a little pinch of boxing skills. So I wouldn't mind seeing that. I think Crawford would be forced to box a little bit more and be a lot smarter in that fight, and we would get to see that dimension of Crawford exercise a lot more. And then the last fighter, this one to me, I've said it once and I'll say it again. To me, this is still, regardless of the fact that he just lost, one of the most exciting matchups in boxing, and that is definitely Amir Imam. Now I know I'm gonna come out here. You guys know, if you guys follow me, I am biased when it comes to Amir Imam. Amir Imam is someone that I'm cool with. Someone, I was at the gym last Monday. I think it was Heavyweight Factory. I was there last Monday waiting to talk to Shannon Briggs. Shannon Briggs didn't show up. While I was waiting to talk to Shannon Briggs, I was just playing basketball with Amir Imam's little brother. We played basketball together, and Amir Imam even shot hoops with us for like 2 minutes or so after he got done training and took a shower and all that stuff. So anyway, as far as that fight goes, I would be very excited to see that fight after Amir Imam can get like 2 or 3 more wins under his belt and get his confidence back. That's a big fight because Amir, regardless of what anybody says, he lost to a really good fighter in Granados. Granados has been put in tough. He's fought the likes of, Felix Diaz, Brad Solomon. I'm forgetting somebody. Felix Diaz, Brad Solomon, and who else? Can't remember. But he had 3 really tough fights. That was it. He had 3 really tough fights that were close. Nobody ever went in there and just straight walked through Adrian Granados. So if Amir would have did that, it actually would have proven. It would have said more about Amir than Granados, because Granados is a tough fighter. But Granados went in there. He was big fight tested. And when the moment came, he was the better fighter. He was the better man on that night. Now Amir can avenge that loss, and if they can get the rematch set and work his way back up. But I think stylistically that's one of the most exciting fights because Terence Crawford, a switch hitting boxer puncher, Amir Imam, a boxer puncher himself, fighting out the orthodox stance. That's a very exciting fight. Anytime you can get 2 boxer punchers in there, it's always fun. I think you get 2 guys who have high boxing IQs, 2 guys who are not the best defensive fighters. Crawford's good, but doesn't have the tightest defense. Miramam is good. We saw in the Gonzalez fight that he doesn't have the tightest defense. So I would like to see that fight a lot. Both of them guys can hit really hard. But Amir, that fight, timing's way off on that one. Amir had a chance to work his way to fight Terence Crawford. He's got set back with the Granados loss. He's ranked number 10 by the WBC now. So we'll see, man. He has to fight really back up, but those are the 4 fights I wanted to see Crawford have. So, as far as my prediction, just to get to my prediction, I see back to Hank Lundy, Terence Crawford. I see Hank Lundy giving Terence Crawford some solid rounds. He's going to give, because Terence is not a fast starter. We've never seen Terence Crawford start fast. I think the only time he really started fast was his last fight against Derry Jean, just for the simple fact that Derry Jean wasn't bringing much to the table for Terence Crawford. Now, the fact that Hank Lundy can switch styles, I think that buys him a round or 2 extra than it did for Derry Jean. So I expect Hank Lundy to give Terence Crawford a solid, at least bare minimum. He's going to give Terence Crawford a solid 3 to 4 rounds this fight. I'm not saying he's going to win them, but I'm saying he's going to give him 3 to 4 hard rounds of the fight. So I see him giving him rounds. I see Lundy having a little bit of success due to Terence Crawford usually being pretty inactive early on in fights. Kind of dissecting his opponent and then making the adjustment mid-fight. After he does that, I see Terence Crawford, finding a crack or a crevice on Hank Lundy, sticking that jab in his face, exploiting the range, outboxing him, and eventually, Hank Lundy has a really bad habit of fighting on the ropes. So I think Terence Crawford is going to have a great opportunity throughout the whole fight to really do some good body work, drain him while going to the body, and I see him just in the later rounds. I see a Hank Lundy being shot out, a Hank Lundy that doesn't really have a lot of snap on his punches, and I see anywhere from around the 7th to the 8th round, somewhere around there. I see a style for Terence Crawford. I see Terence Crawford just closing the show in grand fashion on, the world's biggest boxing venue, Madison Square Garden, and collecting his 20th career victory and his 20th knockout. So that's what I see for Terence Crawford. Looking forward to a great fight. Hoping Hank Lundy can do better than I think he'll do, and I'm gonna have a great experience. Like I said, before I end this video, to the people that are subscribed to this channel and watching this video still, it's gonna be a great week for me. I've been really working hard with this boxing stuff. Going to the Heavyweight Factory, developing a great relationship with Shannon Briggs and Mary Mom, now Trevor Bryan, and the coaches there as well. Shout out to Jamel Edie, shout out to Stacey McKinley. This is good. I got a little frustrated because I got denied for a couple of fights. I got denied for the Quillen Jacobs fight and the Wilder Spilka fight, but I got in for this fight, so I'm really happy to get into this fight. And I promise you guys I'm going to bring you a lot of good coverage. We got the media workout Wednesday morning. I'll be there at Mendes Gym in New York City. Terence Crawford and Verdejo and Lundy, they'll be there around 11 o'clock noon-ish, so on Wednesday morning. Then Thursday we have the press conference. That would be cool, my first press conference for boxing. Friday will be the weigh-in. That should be fun because Hank Lundy's going to talk a lot of trash. And then Saturday's fight night, and then we get a post-fight press conference. So a lot of great things going on in New York City for this fight. I'm looking forward to meeting all the boxing media people out there. I'm looking forward to meeting some cool people in the fight world, fight fans. If you're out there, if you subscribe to my channel, you're in New York City, hit me up. If you have me on Facebook, if you have me on Facebook, hit me up or message me on here or comment or do something. But it's gonna be a great week, and I hope you guys enjoy all the coverage and content I'm gonna get. Shout out to my boy Neil Anthony Johnson for helping me get this credential. Shout out to just all the people out there in the boxing world. Channels such as Thunderdome Boxing Talk, channels such as Enter the Arena, channels such as Mr. Boxing Today. Shout out to Lyndon Jones Boxing Therapy. Shout out to Made Man. Shout out to Northwest Boxing. Shout out to Hoop Jab. Shout out to all the boxing channels, man. Shout out to Shady Slim. Shout out to Precise Presenter. All those great channels that I enjoy and frequent a lot. So it'll be a great week. Looking forward to it. I got Terence Crawford stopping Hank Lundy around the 8th round. Let me know what you guys think who wins this fight and why. Give me your thoughts on Felix Verdejo as well as anything else you might see that you might have noticed on the undercard. I know Emmanuel Taylor is fighting on the undercard, so that should be cool as well. But let me know what you guys think about this fight, 140 in general, and give me your predictions down below. Take the time to subscribe, all that good stuff, and you can love me or you can hate me, but I'm just a kid from Daniel. So until next time, I'll be in New York City. Take care, guys.